Hello and welcome to this very last episode of season 1 of the Change Setters, the podcast where I invite experienced practitioners to explore the ever-evolving landscape of change management. Today, for this very last episode of this first season, I have with me Maryon. Welcome, Maryon.
Hi, everyone.
We're going to be talking about ambassadors and everything around the whole ambassador process and concept. So, if you've never heard about ambassadors, don't worry, we will definitely go through that. But before I go through that, I just wanted to take a moment to just thank our listeners for supporting me in this first season of the Change Setters. It's been quite an adventure in trying this out and testing this out, and I'm really thankful for all the speakers who came up and made themselves vulnerable to the Change Setters podcast. So thank you so much. And if you've missed any of the episodes, they're available on all streaming platforms. So Spotify, it's also on YouTube. And as of today, it's also on Instagram. That's something new that I'm able to do as of today. So yeah, thank you very much. Let's dig into the topic of today. And let's get to meet our speaker first of all. I really like taking the time to understand who we have here in front of us and how that person came to be on the Change Setters podcast. So, Maryon, you are currently a communication and change manager at Devoteam G Cloud. Let's start.
Not G Cloud, no more.
Thank you. You're right. No, you're part of the group. Let's first start with maybe do you have a role model? And if that person's your role model, why is that?
That's a funny question, especially to me, because to be honest, if a role model is someone I would, I don't know, mindlessly follow or trust and admire, I must say that I'm quite skeptical about human nature. Working in change, we work with a lot of individuals and we are all multifaceted, and yeah, we all have different motivations. So in a given situation, we may act in a good or bad way based on that. So I'm quite skeptical. And yeah, if you take any public figure, you may find in the end that there will be things you love and things you hate. So I don't really have a role model.
Fair enough. And what about books? Are there any books or podcasts that you're listening to currently that you would like to recommend?
I'm thinking maybe about a book that is quite old, but it's still an absolute masterpiece. It's Propaganda by Edward Bernays, I think. Edward Bernays. It's old. It's really like beginning of the cycle, I think, life cycle, actually. And it's really an accurate depiction of underlying forces of our world, and that's also how change management work today. So it's really mind-opening, a bit incendiary, but I think it's from a good perspective. It's really enlightening. And maybe if I had to choose something a bit lighter, because this one can be a bit deep sometimes, I would say it's really the opposite spectrum, but it's The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, and it's really a real breath of fresh air. It's light and it really gives confidence at the opposite spectrum, really.
I've read that book many years ago. I think I was late in my teen years, and maybe I should read it again. It's been a while.
Oh, it's good for teenagers, I think. Yeah, it gives confidence in a period where we may lack of it.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for sharing. Let's go into then the topic of change management. So I would love to hear about your role and what you currently do at Devoteam today.
Okay, so I rejoined actually because, as you said, I used to be in G Cloud, so now I'm part of Group IT. So working on a very transversal role for IT communication and change management. So I came back after a few years in various industries. And what I really loved at Devoteam, something that really stays with me when I was not at Devoteam, is really the way how people work together, and the level of exigence. I think that really made me grow in the past. And people are considerate. They take care of each other. They provide feedback, and so I found really that was a nice environment to go back with. And in this role, I do work with lot of people from everywhere in the company, various positions, various role, and various countries. So that's a really good, I would say, ground for creativity, continuous improvement. Makes the role really stimulating. And I do work with mainly, we have a broad range of tools. We are a tech company, and we work with our various businesses who are owners of these tools to make sure they are properly adopted, properly used. So yeah, that's the role.
Really quite a challenge, I can tell you that. I know you guys have launched a lot of things lately, so well done. And so what about change management? What made you want to pursue, a career in this field, in this
Well, I feel like I fell into it when I restarted my studies and never left. I really find tech attractive at the time, but had no related experience. And I still remember this offer on this very pretty old looking website now. And I saw that change position. It was an apprenticeship to work on Google Suite adoption. That was probably Google Apps at the time. And so as an apprentice, you apply to dozen, if not more, of offers. And most of the time without much success, but that's another point. And really this one inspired me, but I was like, okay, why would I be qualified for that? But it really inspired, so I applied and tried to connect my previous experience, that was totally different, and try to make connections between what the role was about. And actually it really fitted, and I really love at the time how it combined technical knowledge, technical in the way it's more functional, how an app or tool is working, and how it was connected to the people, because that's what change management is, and helping them in their adoption journey. And what I feel here, it was more also about, once again, the people I've met. I've been lucky to meet really great professionals, and they did act as coaches or mentors, which really help, I think, as a young professional going back into my studies. So yeah, maybe a little shout out here to Thibaut or Elise or Jean-Christophe more recently, who have been of great help in my career.
That's really cool. Most of the times when I talk to change practitioners, most of them will tell me like we came across it by luck or by chance,
Yeah.
It's really funny how in school or in school systems you don't talk about change management.
Actually, now I feel like there is, you do find courses, and they do talk about it. But when I started years ago, that was a pretty new field. And yeah, there was nothing about this at school. But even at the time, change management professionals were not so many, at least in France. In the US, that was more common, but in France, it was really the beginning of it, I think.
Yeah, at university, I only had one course, and it was very small, few credits, so not enough focus on it. Anyway, super happy to have you in this field. So I would really love to learn from your experience in the topic of change management. So do you have any example of a difficult change management initiative that you had to manage, and how did you overcome the challenges that you faced?
Oh, that's a funny question, because in the end, I really feel like as change manager, we always come for challenges. Actually, I haven't seen easy change initiative. I don't know if you did.
No.
But yeah, it's never coming on the plate, I would say. So, but that's the fun part of it, is finding solution. And part of my role for a while, actually, either as as a role within the company or as consultant, was to join actually post-project initiatives. So meaning that the tool was deployed, it was officially a fail, let's say it like that, and so we had to work on that. So that was a quite a common common position I've held in the past. And the idea was to improve a kind of catastrophic adoption. So
It's,
it was
it's corrective change management, not like
yeah.
management.
Exactly. But that's funny because at some point also I remember that when we were at the very beginning deploying Google, I don't know if you were already in the role, but Google used to say, there is no need for change. People are using Gmail in their personal lives. And so the companies were deploying super fast, for instance, but they were realizing that professional use was a bit deeper, and so then we had to join to correct indeed the adoption because it was too low. So that was but also it's also related to budget constraints. We see that quite often. We have an envelope for technical deployment. We don't consider much. It's getting better now. I think when working on new project, I feel this is less and less the case. But yeah, budget can usually will impact change management because we have to deploy the tool because the other contract is ending or something like that, and change management will come on the next budget probably. So that happens quite often. But yeah, in the end, we have to come at some point, and we need to dedicate a specific effort. And what I would say, each project is specific. Each project is quite challenging because we do have standardized methodologies in change management, but basically every context, every culture, every level we find in terms of tech savviness, for instance, will differ. So we have to adapt it to that. Typically, an example I have in mind maybe is that a few years ago, I joined an automotive industry company to support the adoption of an internal social network, but with a pretty broad ambition for collaboration, for communication, for also to leverage innovation. So a lot of expectations. And actually, when I myself discovered the tool, I wasn't so appealed. So when you start yourself saying, that's not user friendly, that's not nice, and I have to sell that. Okay, so I was that was a funny one, but in the end, what I did is I audited. It's what we do most of the time. So what has been done, what needs to be done, and a big missing part was the guiding coalition that Cotta identifies in this name, but we can call them ambassadors or champions or coaches, but they are allies in the end. And these guys were not here, meaning that locally there were not local voice for the adoption, no local support. And fact is, in the automotive industry, support role and teams globally are very lean. And basically it means like everyone doing the job of 2 to 5 person. If you compare to banking industry where you have different budget most of the time. The culture was also very formal, so there was no really place for anyone to pop and say, I know about that, I want to share. So very hierarchical, quite political too. And I felt also that values that were quite similar to the one we have at Devoteam today were also more directional, like where we want to be in some time, than really representative of how people were working. So all of this making a pretty challenging, I would say, environment for the project. So how to engage people. Well, what I did actually, I tried something, and I did the exact opposite actually of what the culture was about at the time. And I wanted to offer a really safe, laid back space where all questions were welcome, where everybody could ask a question, where junior could shine, which was not easy in such in such a culture. Be visible, grow, and empower the people in different way than just usual vertical, climbing the hierarchy. So what we did, we welcome all skilled individuals, because some people were pretty tech savvy. We were quite an engineering oriented company, so for them it was easy to catch on what was happening on the tool. And in the end, that worked like that. We welcome everyone that was fitting our predefined criteria. Social network outside have given basically everyone a voice. So that was the purpose of it internally as well. We had to struggle a bit with that also, because people who already had a voice really felt threatened by that. But, that's the positive outlook we had on this, trying to also empower those who already had a voice but were not reaching everyone, giving them an even stronger voice. So all of this really positive outlook, this safe subculture we created, really allowed us to grow this ambassador community, especially in Western countries. And that's a point also, that this approach was not really relevant culturally wise for Asian countries. But we got them on board with, I would say, the mass effect and the management support, because this talks more to their own culture, which is naturally more vertical as well. I would say. And so, pretty quickly we managed to add 300 individuals. They really wanted to have more visibility. They wanted to start to share documents, to share blogs, telling about their day-to-day life, to onboard more people, coaching also and training their colleagues, because they were the one using the tool, so they were knowing. So, and since, it was something I was quite proud in the end of, because I was at the beginning not fully convinced by the tool. I started with an ambition that was not totally tool related. I tried to make this more about communication and collaboration. And the idea was really to make this not too much about the tool, really about the behaviors needed for collaboration, the behaviors needed for communication, for innovation to take place. That's why I'm talking also a lot about the culture, and not making it only about this tool I wanted to deploy, but possibly involving other tools in it, and feeding them actually with everything that technology wise and from a behavior standpoint was relevant. So working on the mindset, posture, switching from information is I keep information for myself because it gives me power to I share the information. Sharing is caring, the motto. This will the more I feed people around me, the more I will have power actually. Documenting what I do and what can be beneficial to others, instead of just keeping it for myself once again. Being a digital leader or influencer, it was before influence become what it is today. Not always so positive. And also making it a culture where asking question once again is valued. It will feed and the others, and if I dare to ask, it will help other people who don't dare to ask. Acting with energy, so reusing our values, but really in a way that was relevant to our topic. So trying to make it fit into what we were doing. And so in the end, it's really a lot about culture, I would say.
What a challenge! I can tell you, what a challenge. I can just imagine, all the resistance that you got while putting this.
And it was a massive company, so the rhythm is definitely not the same as the one we know today at Devoteam, which is extremely fast-paced and which gives actually the company a really interesting, which makes it an interesting place to work. But in such a company, we have to know how much time we need, and that's really a component of change as well.
Yeah. In one of the episodes of the podcast, we went through agile change management. It's a whole different topic, but I really like the comparison of how there are just two types of change management. One for speedboat companies, that are, you can imagine a speedboat, it just changes constantly and people are used to it. And so it's just, yeah, you do things one way. And then there's the ship, this massive Titanic. You need to turn, you need to navigate, and that takes a lot more. It's a different strategy. It's just a different way of working.
Yeah, and it's really something to be considered, and that's also the reason why I did not want it to make this too technology oriented, because technology is changing fast, and the tool actually we talk about is not there anymore today. It has been replaced by a more performing tool, a more modern tool, because this one was really not visually modern, let's say. And so that's why actually I found really important to make it about the mindset, the collaboration, the communication, sort of a techno-agnosticism, I would say, because we have been able actually to reuse this network of ambassadors for other deployment of other tools. And actually that's really powerful. It really also depends on the turnover of your company. Do people change a lot? But here people tend to stay quite a lot. There, not here, sorry. But there people tend to stay quite a lot. So people will evolve in the role and still have this mindset. So that's also a growth factor. And this vision really facilitated next changes, even if it was not about changing this tool, but if we were deploying a tool that was about, I don't know, innovation, knowledge management, collaboration, communication, those guys could actually be used locally for deployment, and they were willing to share, and due to their profile they were actually pretty happy to be on board once again, and to work with their colleagues locally to be facilitators. So really helpful to have a more long-term vision on such big companies that are changing slowly.
Yeah, 100%. So one question that I have is, how did you sell this ambassador program or ally program, or whatever you want to call it, to the board? Because if you were going against the culture of the company, I can imagine that discussion wasn't an easy one. How did you go around that?
So first of all, I must say that being in HQ for such program makes it easier because you are closest to the decision makers. And the only fact that a role was opened for me was approved, so that they knew something was coming. But now in parallel, what we did is actually we really sandwiched the approach, meaning that we also worked from the bottom, and involving our management instances to make this work, because it really has to come both ways. And as I said, if a top management also sees a way to resonate better, to have a stronger voice, and which was the case, because in the end we did put our intranet onto this tool, and so making it even more powerful. And it gives them even more power. And in those kind of companies, it's a lot about power and how strong my voice is, how I can reach people, or how I can engage them. So on their side, it was done like that. And on the other hand, what we did is that really, as you would do almost for external recruitment, here we created a job description for the kind of profiles we were looking for. We included requirements, the skills, also the benefits. Of course, we change manager, we include the benefits.
For me, yeah, for sure.
And yeah, we call for volunteers through existing communities, internal network, and we really focus on tech savviness and communication-oriented individuals, meaning the both. People being too tech savvy would have difficulties to communicate, and not the other way around. People being excellent communicators but not being tech savvy enough wouldn't share the right messages here. So it was really a balance between those two, I would say. And yeah, we started like that. We provided training to make sure that they could cascade locally. This was really voluntary based, and that's an important point in comparison to what we do today. We haven't been really tough on selection. That was part of our positive approach. Everybody can help in different ways based on their skills. So in the end, we realized that we had, I would say, 3 main profiles. One being influencer, so meaning more directors looking for opportunities maybe to share their successes, reach more people, show to the HQ that was even remote, physically pretty far, that they were doing good and doing their part also in this change.
Yeah.
So by showing they were participating, and these were really the influencers, and their role was more to tell them, join, go ahead, we need you, as a more expert profile that will train people. That was the second profile we had. So facilitating actually the implementation of our local ambassadors that were more the expert profiles, really fluent on the tool, offering coaching or training sessions, or just answering sometimes the questions on the expert communities we had, those kind of things. And we also naturally, as part of this, of the 300 we had also passive profiles, but being more like unconditional support to anything we were doing, joining the training, pushing our comms, because the tool was a lot about virality as well. So likes and comments were helping also. So that were the kind, I would say, of people we in the end ended with as ambassadors.
So when you created your ambassador track, did you have 3 different paths set up, or did you figure out 3 profiles later on?
This came through time, and we helped them actually identify this later along, but which was fine, because having a community of ambassadors, you have to make it to make it alive all along, the way. So that was fine. We didn't plan this like that initially, because we wanted to be visible very quick, to change a bit this space that was taking too much time, and we were already in a negative dynamic because the tool was deployed but not used. So in the end, we launched pretty quick, and it's more virality in the end that make those people join and who wanted to be part of it. But this was not defined. We segmented it later on and try to adapt more our engagement and communication activities around that, so to make sure that we had content and activities to feed all of them. It was more profile based, but this came after when we actually realized that our community was not homogeneous, and that we had to provide them content based on their profile.
Yeah, that's the job of change management. You have to constantly adapt. You can't foresee everything, right? Especially
and that is fine, because in the end, especially when it's a long term, I was not consultant there, so I was in the company, and that's actually that allows you to adjust your strategy and make it relevant also for what's coming next.
Yeah. One thing I really liked about what you said, I just want to highlight it to be sure that our audience caught it, is that an ambassador program doesn't need to stop when the project stops. You said you've used that pool of ambassadors several times afterwards for other initiatives, and I find that's really important to highlight to when you go to the board, for example, or you go to C-level, saying like the effort that we're putting into now, you'll reap, you'll sow, the efforts also in many years to come, because you've already got something set up in place,
It really helped, because to say some names, because we started with Jive, which is a tool that was used also at Devoteam. So when I joined, it was for the Jive adoption. It was a Jive on-prem, so not cloud-based, so really quite a story already, even at the time. And so this tool is not there anymore. But when there is no hand in adoption, the phases don't stop. But I think when we did most of the job for Jive, we started to deploy actually Microsoft Office 365, and meaning that the mindset was here for collaboration. 365 was a lot more about collaboration with teams, for instance, and that was at the time of COVID. So having those ambassadors almost ready to take over was really helpful. And after that, I know the company changed also to Lumaps, and so I was not there anymore for the end of the project. But definitely, having these ambassadors all along for all those projects really helps.
Yeah, 100%. I know that you've used the concept of ambassadors and champions several times after, this project and still today in Devoteam. Do you see, and by the way, this is my last question, do you see any recurring challenges in setting up an ambassador program?
Yeah, indeed. So what we will always ask ourselves, I would say, is trying to find a balance between voluntary approach, so the one I use in the automotive industry, and more or less imposed approach as what we do today in Devoteam. So actually, both of them have really good aspects to them, because if you need to reach a quota, which we sometimes say the 5% ambassadors or those kind of things, if you have people that are clearly listed and you say I need 20 and you get 20, of course that helps at some point. Fact is, the issue we will see with that is, are they aware of the workload? Will they make it? Because it's a job itself somehow, even if it's just part of your activity, but it takes time. So how will you make it work with your current workload? How engaged will these people be if they have been imposed with the job,
Yes.
How connected to what we do will they be? It's easier when you have people who raise their hand and say, I want to be part of that, because they will be here, they want to be part of it, and they have found benefits in that. And I would say a challenge for both positions in many ways is really I would say, turnover and constantly onboarding people. And that could be an entire podcast about how to make sure the rotation is not impacting the adoption. That's quite a heavy topic on a daily basis for us, because rotation that's how work is. So
I can definitely relate to all the three things that you just said. And even if I look at the change rollouts that we do today, I think the ambassador track, the ambassador piece is one of the pieces that take us most time, because there's just so much that we need to do with these people. We need them because there are eyes and ears throughout the company. We cannot be everywhere. It's definitely labor intensive, but worth it.
Yeah.
Worth it. Well, thank you so much, Maryon, for sharing your experience around, how to set up ambassadors for change. This was really interesting discussion, and I'm sure our audience learned a lot from you.
My pleasure.
Thanks, everyone. And again, I'll keep you guys posted on social media for season 2. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.